And we're live. And I would just like to say a huge welcome to Dr. Robin Harrison of the Maestro Online. I'm so excited to have you here, Robin.
Thanks, Joanna. I'm excited to be here. I was so honoured to be invited.
Oh, goodness me. No, the honour is all mine. Absolutely all mine. I'm just excited for us to chat about, well, basically my favourite subject, and I'm pretty sure it's your favourite subject as well, which is pedagogy and music, all of these things.
Absolutely.
Fantastic.
I think we grew up in a generation, I think, where everything had to be correct, and to some extent we lost our sense of creativity a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, it feels like a world sometimes where creativity is stifled, and yet it's such an important part of everything that we do, isn't it? Creativity, and I think the work that you are doing in this area is really, really powerful. As I'm sure we will be exploring as we go on today. But first of all, Robin, do tell us a little bit about you and your background. I mean, you know, I've heard, for example, tell me that you did your grade 8 organ in 2 years.
That is true.
Wow.
I did. And in fact, so I went to primary school, and of course I come from the days when local councils were very kind to musicians, and I did recorder club after school with Mrs. Owens. And I was, I don't know, about year 4 or something. And it got to the stage where she said, Robin, I can't help you with recorder anymore. She basically said she was doing recorder club because the headmaster had asked her to, and she wasn't really that good at the recorder. And I'd got to kind of the level that she was at.
The student becomes the master.
Yeah. So that was at the point at which councils did those great schemes where you were loaned an instrument, and a teacher came into your school. Fabulous. I mean, how many people must have started their music journey through that kind of support? Loads.
It's how I started my cello journey.
Right, there you go. So I then moved on to clarinet. And so I had a couple of years of clarinet. And when I was in year 6, I got the grade 3. So I was well chuffed. And that's a northern expression. I was well chuffed.
Well, nothing wrong with that.
And then it was Christmas when I think I was in year 7, and I was at my auntie uncle's house in West Kirby for Christmas meal, Christmas Day, family do, and they had a piano, and I'd grown up in the kind of church choir background, and I opened a hymn book and got my favourite carols, and I tried to work them out at the piano after Christmas lunch, and that's where my piano journey began.
Wow.
So I started that, and I kind of taught myself for a bit. And then I got believe it or not, I got myself organ lessons before piano lessons.
Okay.
So I did my grade 4 after year, grade 8 after the next year. And then I also did piano lessons. I wasn't quite as good at piano at that time. I kind of think going from organ to piano might not have been the right way around, because obviously when you play the organ, it doesn't matter how hard or soft you hit the key, it makes no difference. So when you come to the piano, you don't necessarily have the sensitivity for expression in your fingers that you have in the organ. You've obviously got articulation, because organs go on about articulation all the time. But you don't have that loud, soft thing going on.
Sure.
So then I did that. And then I went to Dartington International Summer School when I was 15. I got a bursary. And one of the people I worked with was David Titterington, who I'd heard on the radio on the proms. So he really inspired me. And Peter Eben. Now, Peter Eben, if people don't know, is a Czech composer. And he was absolutely brilliant. So I had some lessons with Peter, and he was famous for improvisation, and he inspired me no end. For starters, I was 15 years old at Dartington, and I'd be sat outside the pub having a drink with this man who was from Poland. And he made the history books that I thought history was really boring. I'm sorry for anybody who loves it. My mum loves it. But he changed that, because he told me how, as a boy, he was in a Jewish prisoner of war camp. And he told me the stories of what it was like. And to meet somebody who'd been in it, well, that was just phenomenal. You know, and for a 15-year-old, that was like, I'm not in a history lesson now. This is a real person who's been there, you know.
Yeah.
And he
But
told me
primary
how,
sources.
yeah, he told me how the Nazis took away his music in case it was code. And then they told me how they took away his piano eventually. And then even though he's Jewish, he went down to the local church and they let him mess around on the organ. And that's where he learned to improvise.
Wow.
Because everything else had gone.
Wow. That is powerful.
And my first session with him was improvising on one note. He said, if you can't improvise on one note, you can't improvise on two.
Superb.
Now, the great thing about that is it teaches you rhythm, because you can't make a tune with one note.
Of course.
So that built. So I had a few sessions with him that week, and I ended up corresponding with him. I ended up sending in my compositions, and he used to write feedback and post it back. Of course, this is pre-internet, so you used to have to wait. Used to send it to Poland, and then 4 weeks later get a letter back and be really excited when I ran down the stairs in the morning and to see it there, you know.
I can relate, yeah.
So he was great. And there was a concert there in Dartington where he was improvising, and he asked the audience to shout out a tune. Somebody called out a tune and he didn't know it, so he asked them to sing it to him. So they sang it. He works it out on the piano and he says, "Is that right?" And they say, "Yeah." So he says, "Right, somebody else shout out a composer," and somebody go Beethoven. Then he'd improvise on the tune in the style of Beethoven that he's only just learnt. And somebody else go Tchaikovsky, and then he'd do it in the style of Tchaikovsky.
Magic. Absolute magic.
I was like, whoa, if only I could do that. And I couldn't do that at that time. And I went to the Northern, as you know, and I did everything that you do at the Royal Northern at a conservatoire. I learnt to, refine my technique, make sure I used the right finger, make sure my articulation was good, make sure my technique was good, all this kind of thing that you do as an undergraduate. But by the end of it, I have to admit, I felt a little bit burnt out. I'm not sure that there's a difference when music is your passion to when you're doing it all day, every day, and still keeping that passion there. And that's an important thing for us, I think, as professionals. And our students need to feel that we've got the passion. And then in my Viva for my undergrad thesis, I was actually offered a PhD place in the Viva by the external examiner. Super. And I said no.
You said no?
I said no.
Why did you say no?
I said no because I'd been a student for 4 years. I needed to earn some money.
That's a good reason.
I thought, I'll get a job. Well, actually, I went and did a PGCE, and then I learned how to teach. And then after a year of teaching, I thought, you were stupid to give that up. And I contacted the guy, Professor Robert Pascal, who was then one of 2 world Brahms experts and an expert in analysis. And he'd moved from Nottingham to Bangor in Wales. And so I started my PhD with him.
The late works of Frank Bridge, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. He was an amazing guy. He had 1 composition pupil, Benjamin Britten. So who knows what would happen if he taught some others. And he taught Britten from about the age of 14. Britten used to go and stay as summer holidays with him and learn from him in the summer holidays. Britten basically went to a concert in which Bridge's works were performed and Bridge was there, and then went and spoke to him afterwards, and that relationship developed from there. Bridge was extremely renowned. He was a conductor at the proms and things like this, but he lost popularity. He was also got the largest stipend from Elizabeth Sprague Coolidge, equivalent of about £25,000 a year. She was the one who sponsored Stravinsky, and she arranged tours for him in America conducting his works. And so he was getting like 25 grand a year but he lost popularity because he was a pacifist. And at the time of the World War, this was seen as not supporting your country. If he was alive now, we might have a different viewpoint.
Indeed.
But so he lost a lot of what was going on there. So yes, so I went and did that, and I did a part-time PhD in 2 years.
There seems to be a theme here.
To me, he thought was the fastest on record. So I did that. And when I was at Dartington, I was 15. I'd met a group called Black Voices, and I went into some of their gospel workshops, gospel vocals, and I was really moved by it. It was really powerful. And the way they did it was they had a different singer in front of each voice part. And you were learning the voice part from that one singer while the other voice parts were singing with their singers. And it was really powerful. And I thought, I need to go to Africa or somewhere. This is just brilliant. And I went to Gambia and I stayed with the tribe. And then I realized that they don't really do gospel style music in Gambia. But still, I learned the music from them, came back. And then I thought, what jobs are there in Africa? And as I looked around in the countries where the singing was strong, there were not countries that necessarily paid particularly well. And in the end, I got a job in Egypt, thinking I can get to the rest of Africa from Egypt. And so I started at the school. It was a British International School, a superb school called New Cairo British International School. And one of the first things that happened when I was there was what's called iftar, which is a ceremony that Muslims have when they break the fast at the end of Eid. Yeah. Now, the school had a lot of Egyptian staff, and so they actually put on an iftar for all the staff.
Nice.
And they had whirling dervishes, and they had food, and they had shishas, the smoking water bubble thingies. And there was a guy playing the piano. He was amazing. I was playing Spot the Tune. It was the Beatles, it was Mozart, it was Beethoven, it was Avril Lavigne. It was all these different people from different eras all going in and out. And then it'd be a jazz standard. And then I was like, whoa. So I went to him afterwards and I said, I want to learn to do that. I've just followed the dots all my life. I want to learn how to do that. He said, I know speak English. I was like, I don't care. I'll just copy it. I really don't care. Turns out he was from Moscow and he'd learnt jazz guitar in the 70s in Moscow, which I think was ahead of its game. And he arranged the music for the Russian army. And then he says to me, I don't play piano. I play guitar. Okay. I said, no, you play piano. You're amazing. And that thing of I become a professional and I was doing my job, and what I said about inspiration, he was reigniting my flame. And he was called Valerie. And I then studied with him for 4 years, and he wouldn't allow me a dot of sheet music for those 4 years.
How interesting. Interesting, the idea of identity, though. We're all very quick to categorize and to pigeonhole, aren't we? We're all very quick to do that. Oh, I am a pianist. I am not a jazz pianist. I am this. I do this. I don't do this. I am this. I'm not a pianist. I'm not a singer. We have this tendency to pigeonhole. And don't you think that can be rather destructive or problematic, at least?
I think that you've hit the nail on the head in an even bigger sense. So more and more we're aware of musicianship. If we're a musician performing through an instrument rather than a pianist, that's a kind of different mentality. It's the other side of the coin. And I think that's really important. I remember David Vinden in one of his Kadai courses saying that somebody had said to him that was it his cello made a mistake, or his cello wasn't communicating it well that day. So it was that the cello was the vehicle of the music from inside that person to the listener.
How interesting. And especially, I think the sort of the music college thing, we tend to get to this point of revering the instrument, don't we? So it's an interesting shift that we revere this instrument. Myself as a pianist, that we're playing these incredible Steinway grands, and we've got to come up to this level, and yet we have so much to offer as musicians, and perhaps we need to shift this and just start thinking of ourselves as musicians.
I think the classic example is Louis Armstrong. So Louis Armstrong, if you were a classical vocal coach at a conservatoire, you'd probably say that he didn't particularly have a trained voice. You'd probably say he didn't particularly have the technique. And yet, the moment you hear him, you know it's him. And when he plays the trumpet, you know it's him.
Of course.
What is it that he does so well? I think it's communication. I think he communicates through the music. And I think that goes beyond his technique. Now, I should counteract that with technique is important. And if
that is a vehicle, really, isn't it? That is.
It is. If your technique isn't there, then it doesn't matter what you're thinking or feeling. You can't communicate it.
Yeah.
So technique is important. I'm not saying it's not at all. But I think that vehicle of human communication and character, because that's what you hear with Louis. You hear character. And that speaks volumes. And when you think of things like the Leeds International Piano Competition or things like that, those kind of events where you get pianists that come from over the world who are technically trained phenomenally, and then you get 2 or 3 people or whoever playing the same piece, and you're going, who's the best? And then they all play it pretty much note accurately. How now do you choose who's the best?
Sure, absolutely. I experience the same thing, adjudicating for festivals, and you have people with the same piece, and yet it has to speak to you. There has to be some form of communication. We're not playing typewriters. I'm showing my age there, even saying typewriters. But yeah, so at this point I'm just going to say, if you are watching, let us know where you are watching from. Say hello and a welcome to Robin here, and we're interested to know, is creativity and especially improvisation part of something that you do as a musician? Do you improvise? If you're a teacher, do you teach improvisation? Do you explore improvisation? It's a very interesting theme. We were talking about that at the piano teachers course recently, that in recent little decades, really, last X number of years, we moved away from improvisation, and people often have this huge fear, and yet for so long it was an expected part of what we do as musicians.
Yeah, I think there's a whole bunch of things you're opening up there. One is the idea that improvisation is a separate topic. So once I've been having my lessons with this Russian guy who's called Valery, once I've been having my lessons with Valery, I perform my repertoire so much better, so much more freely, and I understood how I was communicating it better. So in other words, it helped my regular playing. It made a difference to my performances. And it has done ever since. He's unlocked that in me. And that was something I never managed to unlock at the Royal Northern. Not because my teachers weren't good, not because they weren't doing a good job. I'm not in any way critical, but I just needed somebody to unlock that key. And he did that. And I will forever be grateful to him. He will always be in my memory for that. Just as will always be in my memory certain people from that traditional background as well. The other thing that I think you've unlocked is, I don't think Mozart was able to buy a piano method book to start his piano skills off. And he was starting with middle C and 5-finger position and all that kind of thing. So we know that people learned in a different way. And what's interesting about that is to consider, how did they learn? And there's an amazing letter somewhere from an organist in Germany in the Baroque, who was auditioning for a church job, and somebody said to him, "What are you going to play?" To which he responded in the letter, "I'm not going to play anything by anybody else. That'd be silly, because then you'd play some wrong notes." So you improvise, because then it can't be wrong.
You put it like that, and it's wonderfully freeing, isn't it?
It is. So if people like Mozart weren't buying books with 5-finger positions and starting in middle C, what were they doing? And what was this organist doing in the Baroque? And how did other people learn? I mean, it's not just about keyboard instruments, any instrument. And singers perhaps teach us the most, because singers tend to be more ear first,
yes,
than we are. And I hopefully not insulting anybody, but singers generally often don't follow notation as well as an instrumentalist, because they learn with the sound first.
Yes, yeah.
And that's where methodology like Kodály and Edwin Gordon and all these
music learning theory, absolutely. Yeah,
all these things are about connecting sound with what you see and with what you play, but trying to get an image or impression of that sound in your brain. And they were learning ear first. Now, if music is the study of sound, why would we learn it eye first?
It's so true. I mean, you mentioned Edwin Gordon, and he was all about the notion of music acquisition being a little bit like language acquisition, and you know, this problem that we start with reading in Western music. We have got to this point where we start with reading, and yet how can you do that when the sound doesn't come first?
Exactly. And so many people have come to the same conclusion. Dalcroze came to the same conclusion because he starts with movement first. Suzuki technique. Often, I have friends who are ABR examiners, and they often say you can spot the Suzuki players. They play incredibly well, but then they struggle with the sight reading because they've done all that sound first kind of methodology. And what's common to those people, and if you read Suzuki's writings, it's all in there, is that they often consider, how do we learn as human beings? What's our development from being a baby? So when we're a baby, we hear sounds around us. And even before you're a baby, you're hearing them in your mum's womb. And then you're learning to babble. In other words, you're beginning to copy sounds. So there needs to be some element of copy. Then once you've got some vocabulary, you're stringing your own sentences together and you're actually improvising. And, you know, people around you will also be chuckling because you're putting the words together in a funny way. And you're gradually making your sentences. Then you learn to read, and then you learn to write.
Exactly.
So a lot of what these people would say is, in some way, the Western method of learning, which probably started mid-1800s, I would think, somewhere like that, of doing the notation first, is counter to where humans naturally evolve.
Absolutely.
And you get that with young learners. When you get a beginner, and maybe they're 5, it probably applies to adults as well, and they come to you for their first piano lesson. So you plonk a book in front of them, you say, well, this one's that letter, and if you look at the pattern of keys, that's that one there, right? That number there is that finger. Put that finger on that one and press that one, and and then they become a bit disheartened because actually they wanted to make some sound.
Nervous.
Yeah, I came to a piano lesson. I haven't played piano yet. I remember being director of music at a good independent school, and somebody had asked for piano lessons, and I'd booked them. And 3 weeks later, she comes back to me and says, Dr. Harrison, I've had 3 lessons and I haven't played the piano yet. I said, what? And she said, well, I've been tapping rhythms on each knee and things like this. And I said, okay, well, it's really good that you're doing things. But basically what she's saying is, I want a piano lesson so I could make noise on the piano. And that's the first thing we want to do, is create sound.
Of course we do. Look at the freedom of a young child playing the piano, and yet we lose that. And of course, I mean, teachers traditionally, I mean, things are changing. Happily, things are changing now. But many, if we look at our traditional, for want of a better expression, classical music teachers, there is a fear out there with regard to being more creative with music, because we've got into this tutor book, as you say, middle C position kind of thing. There is a fear, isn't there, of expressing that creativity, showing possibilities, the whole what if, and not being bound by styles and genres.
Yeah, absolutely. And the freedom of all genres. I think more and more there's people who are maybe having classical piano lessons and they're maybe going back home in their car and they've got the radio on and they're listening to Adele. And there doesn't need to be that divide. We can love Beethoven and Adele. It is possible. It's perfectly okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know that's one of the things that you're wanting to do. You're kind of wanting to sort of blur these, again, with this theme, isn't getting away from the pigeonholes, getting away from the sort of stereotypes, isn't it? And blurring the edges and just seeing we're making music, and that is what we need.
Absolutely. And even things like taking a tune, I hope this comes over well, like We Will Rock You, is that you can even very quickly just go, right, we're going to start in a different key.
Absolutely.
And the moment you've done that, you're actually processing things, because you're going, hang on, that was 1 step apart. That's a semitone. That one was 2 steps down. So I'm actually thinking theory.
Yeah.
So there's a danger. I think that some people might think that improvisation means you're watering things down, but it doesn't. It can actually mean that you understand your pieces better. Because you spot chords, you spot harmonies, you spot passing notes, you spot patterns, and you spot maybe the circle of fifths or whatever it is. And that understanding my repertoire better will make me a better performer of that repertoire, because I understand it. Instead of going, that's a B, that's finger 4, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Instead of
And
page 17 of grade 1 theory book.
yes,
It's
yes,
everything's coming alive. It's that understanding, and the number of times you get those eureka moments. Oh, so that's why. And yeah, and
yes,
trying things in different keys and transfer. I mean, the higher order skills actually that you're doing in introducing those things and that way of thinking. Really powerful. The same thing with if you are going to teach a piece of repertoire, taking the elements from that piece and working with them first, understanding the concepts that are
exactly.
involved, and playing with them, and just this sense of what if.
Yeah, exactly. And the sense that actually theory books, in a sense, do some of that, because they contain examples of real repertoire.
Exactly.
But there's an obligation on us, the teacher, when we're playing repertoire, to go, oh, look, what's going on there? Did that sound finished? Is that a perfect cadence or not? How do we know? What key is it in? What's the fifth note? What's the first note? And so it's not totally that the exam is dry. It's also that we need to teach it through what we're doing at the instrument. And that's really important.
Absolutely agreed. Do let us know, everybody, if you have a question for Robin. Particularly, we're chatting about creativity and improvisation in music, but let us know if you have a question. Just pop it in the comments, and then we can go there. So what do we do then, Robin? Because I feel at the moment that the kind of piano pedagogy in this country, and it is distinct from other countries, the way that we are delivering, and I can speak from a pianist point of view. Pedagogy in the UK is very different from what is going on in the US, for example, or other European countries. So what is it, if you are a teacher that is interested in providing a holistic curriculum for your students, and not just sticking with your tutor books and nothing else, and the exam system and nothing else? What can we do as teachers to kind of illuminate our teaching?
Well, Joanna, as of yesterday, I've just had our new syllabus approved, which I've called Creativity Grades for Music Lovers.
I feel like we need to do.
Yes. Absolutely. It's been a long time coming. It's been a lot of research and a lot of work.
Absolutely. This is so exciting. You must tell us all about this.
And that's in it, by the way.
Oh, is it? Oh, there you are.
That's in it.
Shall we transpose it?
Yes. Oh, Joanna, I toured Uganda last year, delivering masterclasses and conducting televised concerts in the cathedral and all sorts. And I was asked to do some of the Hallelujah Chorus and other works with a choir in a workshop. And somebody was playing piano for me so I could conduct. So we're about to start this oratorio, and he says to me, what key would you like it in? And he could play the oratorio in any key.
Wow.
Absolutely any.
The whole thing. Oh.
And he'd learned tonic solfa when he grew up.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
And he was just off. That was incredible. Anyway, that's an aside. I've got off the topic. So the exams are, in fact, aimed to make more people like him. It's fantastic. Yeah. We've got different routes, and we've got different routes for different styles. Now, that doesn't mean you have to do the same route from debut to grade 8. You could do different styles, every grade. Totally fine. But I've tried to keep the main learning objectives across the different styles. So there's a Baroque route, which is using the lessons that we still have that Handel taught to Princess Anne. There's a classical route that uses partimenti, which are skeletons that people like Mozart use. So when you hear something, you go, oh, that sounds like Mozart. You're spotting how he developed a particular skeleton and you recognize it. So we've got the Mozart route. We've got a romantic route, thanks to research by Bert Muirman, who's an expert in improvising romantic piano music. And he's from the Hague Conservatoire. And in fact, you were talking about pedagogy in different countries. At the Hague Conservatoire, every instrumentalist is supposed to have improvisation as part of their learning process.
Wow.
So that is normal for them. And Bert's one of those leading that forward. Then there's a jazz route, there's a pop route, there's a famous classical pieces route. I use the word classical as in classic event kind of meaning of the word. And there's a ground bass route, There's a famous organist route as well. So in other words, that's list A. So that's all about learning. We talked about technique. That's technique. It's bass up, or it's chords, or it's harmony, or, you know, in jazz, you might be learning the circle of fifths, but equally in Handel, you could be learning the circle of fifths. Doesn't matter which style you're doing, you're learning the circle of fifths.
Sure.
That's great. And then there's a list B, which is the other way around. You've done bass up, you're now melody down. So that's a bit like a lead sheet, or it's a bit like you just played the Hallelujah chorus. And if you want, you could take something like Happy Birthday and you could completely restyle it. You know, and it makes me different. Or you could do, you know, well, if I played the right chords, that would have been better. No, but it was a Haydn symphony that had the tonic and dominant at the same time at the end, wasn't it? That was the joke, I think. Anyway, right. And then yeah, so there's melody down. You could swingle singers. You could take Mozart and you could do a swingle singer. One of my singing teachers was a swingle singer, so I got to know that. Right, okay. Great. And if you're a jazz person, that's lead sheet down. If you're a pop person, you can take a pop song, the same thing. You don't particularly have to stick to the original structure. In other words, you're arranging it. Or maybe you're taking the melody exactly as it is. You're doing Swan Lake and you're creating a different texture. And I've called part of this syllabus Pop Go the Classics. So your favourite tune, what are you going to do with your favourite tune is basically the question. And obviously, as we develop, we know from our traditional grade structure that, you know, debut, you might have one note in your left hand and one note in your right hand. We know at grade 4, grade 5, the left hand's probably going to be leaping a bit. We know at 6, 7, we might have some octaves and bigger chords in the right hand. So in other words, the textual development is very similar to what you'd expect on traditional grades. It's not the chord, it's what you do with it. In other words, Bach used a C chord.
Yeah.
Oogie Woogie pianist used a C chord. The Beatles used a C chord. But it doesn't sound the same. Yeah. It's what you do with it that counts.
Yeah. Sure.
Then we've got list C, which is EDI, which of course is all about equality and diversity. That's
so interesting.
That's got music by female composers, and I've researched it so much as well. And I've contacted some modern female composers as well who've given us some resources. And the aim is not for that to be an optional one piece somewhere in the syllabus. It's to encourage everybody to explore EDI. And that doesn't just mean female as well. It means countries that are less represented. There's an Indian method throughout.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. There's some African tunes.
Roots as well here.
Yeah, that's all in there. Yeah. And the aim is to encourage people to explore stuff that they don't already know.
Yeah.
Because that is going to encourage creativity. That's going to open our minds. We're going to see things that maybe we didn't see before. Sure. There's a South African composer on there who's brilliant. He invented something called class. And he went to the Royal College of Music. I can't remember what age, 14 or 16 or something ridiculously young, and was an exceptional student. And he combined African, jazz, and classical and called it class. Wow. So there's a bit of class in there as well.
Well, I love this. But if you think about it, I mean, you know, so I'm just sort of jumping in here. I know you've not finished yet, but, you know, this is what people have done for centuries. I mean, look at Debussy and his influences, you know, from the Universal Exhibition and his interest in gamelan and the sound worlds that we open minds to.
I think sometimes we forget that. I mean, you've been in the school setting as well, like me, and you've had children like me, and you know that the modern way of teaching something in reception or year 1 is through play. Yeah, you go into a reception class. And maybe not so much anymore, but they've always had like a post office where you learn about posting letters, and you know that means exchanging money, and you're paying for things, and you learn through play. Yeah. And we forget that as adults because we learn to conform, and society requires us to conform because otherwise it'd be chaos. So we have to have systems. We have to queue up for things. Very British. We have to do all these things that make us work as a society, but in doing so, that's part of, I think, how we lose some of our creativity and play. And I think as adults also, because our brains, we're losing that neuroplasticity to an extent, we're not finding creative solutions. We get more used to our routines. We get more stressed when patterns are broken because we're used to things being a certain way. And we all know that for a lot of people, shall we say, be very careful, as we get older, as things change, we find that more difficult.
Sure.
And if we can keep that neuroplasticity going, we keep the creative side of our brain going, which is so important to the arts.
Absolutely, absolutely fundamental. And creativity, actually, it's such a higher order skill, isn't it? I mean, I know Bloom's taxonomy these days, it can be a little bit passé these days. I'm quite aware of that. But you know, Bloom himself changed his hierarchy and put creativity at the top. Because it requires such a detailed knowledge of so many things, and the capacity to bring things together, is incredible. So, you know, as you say, in terms of neuroplasticity, in terms of, you know, what this is actually doing for the brain, with the brain, it's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you think how a pianist brain fires, and you've got all the technique stuff, you've got all the musicianship stuff. And I haven't done it, but it'd be amazing to have one of those things in your head that shows your brain activity. And we've all seen photos of it or things, whatever. I mean, it's astonishing. It's astonishing.
Absolutely.
It really is.
Absolutely. Yes. So you have the EDI.
Yes. And then finally the list D. List D is a very creative level. It's almost anything goes own choice kind of thing, but it's not quite. It's got more programmatic element to it. So you could take it how you want depending on the style you're in. It could be like a romantic composer that you're inspired by a poet, Goethe or somebody. Then you're going to make something based on that poem.
Like Just knock that out. It
could be that you're inspired by artwork. And of course, in the Romantic era, there were much closer relationships between artists and poets and musicians. And there were sort of soirees where these people were mixing together, weren't they? And there was a much closer relationship between the different arts there. And we actually have some artworks that some living artists have donated as part of this syllabus. It could be that you are wanting to be a little bit more modern. Maybe you're interested in multimedia. Maybe you're interested in what we call, it's termed commercial music usually, which means film music, TV, ads, gaming. There's a huge market for music for games these days.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's some amazing gaming music as well.
Yeah.
That really adds to the experience.
And this part of the world for music should be really important to us because certainly for orchestral classical music, if you like, is alive because of films and things. Because it costs so much to employ so many musicians, and films are able to deliver that budget to have these incredible compositions and to have incredible modern composers. It's not to say that that's the only way, but they certainly are keeping some of that classical music alive, and that's really important. And there could well be, I mean, we don't realize it, we don't know when we're teaching somebody. You could be teaching somebody who's going to be a future TV theme composer, they're a film composer, because all these people started somewhere. So it's really important that we do include these elements within what we do, or we do encourage at least these elements, because you never know where that person is going to end up in the future.
It's so true. And it's so freeing. I mean, I know in your list D, there is the option to just sit and play. There are no right answers, it says, you know, just sit and play. You know, I teach a boy, and he's a year 10 boy. He's amazing because he doesn't find school easy. He doesn't find being in school easy. You know, has varying additional needs, but sometimes he comes in on Friday to his piano lesson and he doesn't even speak, and he just sits and he plays and we play and we just meander and see where it goes. And he has created some of the most incredible music just sitting and playing and then, you know, taking it wherever it needs to go. So I'm hugely excited. I mean, not just for him, I'm hugely excited about what you're offering. And this is very imminent, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was approved yesterday and it should be live within a week. So,
amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. So with these, just so we know, with these different lists, with these 4 different areas, do students need to do all of the different lists, or can they pick and choose?
So this is a great question, because when I first started writing this syllabus, which is nearly a year ago, because it's taken that long to write it.
I can imagine.
My having gone on about the traditional route, I was very much in the traditional route. I was very ABRSM. And there is an absolute place for what they do, and they are brilliant.
Absolutely, 100%.
Absolutely. And so I had, right, well, list A, we're going to do like Baroque harmony. List B, we're going to do classical harmony. List C, we'll do romantic harmony. List D, we'll do the modern harmony. That was where I started. And then I was chatting to somebody who works at the Guildhall, who has been a bit of a mentor to me through this. And he's been a huge supporter, but he's also challenged me a lot on the way. And you need somebody who challenges you. And he challenges me with love. Okay, so
I love that.
so it's good. And he said to me, but I like all styles of music. Well, I don't want to do this. Or he said, what if I'm teaching somebody and they're only really interested in jazz? What do they do?
Yeah.
And so I've tried to create the environment in which you can do any style, but as I said earlier, you can still be covering basically 151 at debut, no matter what that style is. You can still be covering circle of fifths, whether it's Handel or whether it's jazz. So the aim is that everybody does one piece from list A, which is the bass harmony kind of, I need my grounding, I need my technique route. Everybody does something from list B, which is melody down, which is what am I going to do with my chords? I've got this tune I love. What am I going to do with it? Then at the lower grades, you're either doing a C or a D. So you're either doing the EDI or you're doing the commercial creative.
I see.
But then once you've passed the lower grades, you need to do something from every list.
I see.
So it's more that you only do, I'm forgetting which grade is which number now, but you're starting off and you end up with 5 at the top levels. And one of those 5 is, well, if not 2, is free choice, really.
Yeah.
So you've got flexibility to find your route, and that means that can support whatever your learning style is. It can support whatever your musical interest is, or it can encourage you in something you hadn't discovered before.
Absolutely, it's exciting.
Yeah,
and presumably finding a range, because there are huge variety and range of resources and masterclasses and all sorts of things that are within your platform, and so it's an enormous opportunity for professional development for teachers.
Actually, yeah, we've had quite a few people who are teachers sign up for ideas for what to do with their students, or we've had a few that have got like a piano school membership, and then all their students access the resources. Some people have done it really cleverly and like asked each pupil for like £1 extra per lesson, and then it becomes really cost effective then.
Sure.
And then they all get the access, etc. So that can be really useful. So it can be for, as you say, piano teacher training. It can be for your students. And there's all sorts as well that links Kadai technique to improvisation to reading. So there's connections between the different elements, which are all important. So there's all of that there. There's absolutely loads, and there's more and more and more coming all the time. I've got round about a year's backlog of things to edit, and I'm just keeping going.
Wow.
And I'm back in Trinity Laban tomorrow recording. So
wow. So you seem to have this inexhaustible energy, which is wonderful. And we need more of this in the world. Where do you get your energy from, Robin?
Do you know, when Valerie re-sparked me, it's never gone. And I moved back here and he moved back to Moscow, and we still messaged each other through Facebook. Then due to whatever is going on, somehow our messages didn't get across to each other anymore.
Okay.
Which is a bit sad. And then sadly Valerie passed away, and I was really quite upset when that happened. Because he's been such an influence, and so he still lives in me now. He's still here. So the light that he brought into my playing and my music loving is still within me. And he, as I said, when he played for that iftar, there'd be Beethoven, there'd be Mozart, there'd be Avril Lavigne, there'd be the Beatles, there'd be jazz. He had all those different styles, and he loved them all.
Yeah.
And it was great to meet somebody that could do that.
Yeah. So from so far away from the I know what I like, having
Yes.
that open mind and that eclecticism that I think is absolutely wonderful. But also, you know, you speak of him and you just remind us of the power of a great teacher.
Yeah,
and what that
absolutely.
ignites in people, and hopefully this will do exactly the same for so many teachers and musicians out there. So what you're offering here, and certainly in terms, and I know we're focusing on the sort of creativity grades that we're talking about. I mean, aside from that, you do have your pop grades as well, which are fantastic. But presumably, even if people chose not to go down the actual exam side of it, there are so many resources that they can access.
Absolutely.
To really
Absolutely.
light up their lessons.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no requirement to do anything. Everything's there to try and really bolster this area of our education. And on the website, there are also plenty of free resources as well. So when you go into the creativity grades, you'll see skeleton scores and things that you can play around with and you can use in your lessons. And within those as well, I put little snippets from famous composers from real works so that you've got an idea of where to start. Because that was another thing as I was planning these. So I was really excited. I'm going to do this. This is going to be great. It's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then I thought, hang on, there are plenty of people who can teach, but perhaps they wouldn't know how to. Perhaps they go, I'd like to do this, but where do I start? How do I do it? And given that most of us weren't taught to do it ourselves, how do we know? Where do we go? So that's when I was saying, right, I'm going to have to put some resources on the site so that people can actually try it out. So they can have a go and they can see if they get hooked and they can help their students. And it may be even these resources are just a supplement to their regular lessons. It may be that they're not replacing them. You may still well go down the traditional exam route. That's absolutely fine. The important thing is exploring this broader pedagogy, and it's giving people the opportunity and the skills to do that.
Absolutely. It's just saying that there is so much more, and that's what we're all shouting about, Robin. It's what we're all shouting about all the time. We are creating musicians. For me, the piano is the vehicle, but we are first and foremostly teaching musicians. And there is just, you know, we literally have a world of music that is at our fingertips, and so many people, I think, are maybe afraid but want to do it, as you say. So this is really, really exciting what you're doing what you're doing at the moment. You must be constantly in a state of kind of listening out for things. Like, do you do the same? I find when I go listen to music, and you know, and you're just constantly kind of figuring out what's going on.
Absolutely. I could be driving and I said to my wife, oh, can you just message me this so I get it to look at later? I've just heard that.
Exactly. I'll give you an example. So I used to have a perfect picture. I don't anymore. But I ended up driving back from piano teacher's course the other day, and my Spotify just went into some kind of, like, I don't know, 80s, 90s, whatever music freefall, complete freefall. And I was listening to Mr. Brightside, which is a superb track. You were talking about improvising on one note.
Yeah.
You know, and the verses, you know, it's all on one note. And I'm like, how is this happening? But it's the bass line going. And then when it actually goes out of that, it's like, wow, it's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. So
and then, of course, if we contrast styles on that, you've got the one note samba.
Exactly.
So there's another example.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And then, but what we're doing here, we're just being creative, aren't we? We're just making connections, and the more we make connections in our learning, that is what good learning is all about.
and the other thing that's coming out of this is how much joy we're having talking about it.
Yeah.
Now, we all want our students to practice, and we all want them to practice more. And that's a common discussion, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But if we can find a way that pupils love what they're doing,
Yeah.
they will love it. And the word practice almost doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we both have a mutual friend in Paul Harris,
Yes.
who is not, even though he is an examiner, he's not phenomenally pushing of the exams. He wants people to love their pieces first and then gain their accreditation.
Exams are an assessment.
Yes.
That's all they are. They're a celebration of the learning that takes place.
They're a celebration, but they're also a door opener. So if we're going to go to conservatoire, university, whatever, they help open doors.
Yeah.
Or if we want to be a piano teacher, it can help us open that door.
Yeah.
So that's great. But one thing we really need to do is instill a love of music in that person. And if they have that love for life, that's a gift that you've given them.
Yeah.
And,
a huge gift.
And if we can find the way in, and creativity can be that way in, because it gets over all sorts of hurdles, it gets over all sorts of barriers, and it can be so rewarding and so much fun.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. We have a question here from Trish, who said, I'm very interested in the musicianship aspect. As you know, I'm a proponent of music learning theory. Robin, have you used MLT research in developing your musicianship training?
Yeah, I first came across MLT about 15 years ago. And I bought every single book I could on it. I really, really believe in it. It is very, very important. I see music teaching as being a bit like, this sounds bad, but I mean it in a good way, a bit like being a builder. You need a toolkit. And a spanner works brilliant for one thing, but if you've got a screw, it won't fix that. You need a screwdriver. So I think MLT is brilliant, and I think you should absolutely follow it. I think relative tonic solfa has an absolute brilliant place in music learning. I think Dalcroze has a superb place in music learning. I think learning from notation has a superb, brilliant role, because it allows us to have music that's transferred across hundreds of years or different countries or whatever. So I think you need a toolkit from as many different methods as you can. And then you also find out, of course, that what works really well with one student doesn't always work really well with another. And then because you've got your toolkit, you then pull out of that bag what's going to work best with that person.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, here's a theme of not straitjacketing, of just being open, but having music at the core. And I think we just can't go wrong when we've got that love of learning. As you see, it's just our key to open up this magical world. And let's face it, in the world that we live in, we need music more than ever. We need music, and we need connection more than ever. So tremendously exciting work that you are doing, Robin.
Thank you.
And I do urge everybody to go, and if you haven't seen already, do go and have a look at the Maestro Online wonderful learning platform, whether it's just to take a look at the resources that are available, the masterclasses, the free resources, as Robin was saying, or to look at the POP exams, or indeed to take a look hot off the press these new creative improvisation based exams and resources. It's so exciting. Robin, it's been absolutely wonderful chatting to you today.
Thank you so much.
Are you going to be teaching the rest of the day, or will you be working on your resources?
Both. So I've got a few hours of teaching at the minute. I'm editing a basse de trompette masterclass. If you don't know what basse de trompette is, obviously it's French for trumpet bass, and it's these kind of pieces where you have this kind of left hand on the organ on a trumpet sound, and you have chords in the right hand going over it, and they're only about a couple of minutes long, and these would have been improvised in the Baroque, which for some reason we call French classical, but not sure why, but it's Baroque. And so I'm editing that. Hopefully that'll be out tomorrow, because we just finished that, and I recorded that with an amazing guy called Sam Lejean, and I only found out afterwards that Sam has won 5 international competitions and 7 first prizes from the Paris Conservatoire. Wow. So he knows how to play.
Okay, yeah. We salute him. We really do. as we do you, Robin, and
Thank you.
may you continue with this wonderful trajectory, with this energy and excitement for music and music pedagogy. You're exactly what the world needs right now. Thank you so much for joining me today, Robin.
Thank you so much for having me, Joanna.
You're very welcome, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you, everybody, for joining us as well.